Hello, it's Miss Salinas here. I am here to do a, not reflection, but a overview of my lesson that I had created, which is stem and leaf plots for 4th grade. This is the third kind of data organization chart that they would make in the TEKS that I had seen for statistics and data and graphing. So let me share my screen. And let me go ahead and share with you my presentation. So I'm just going to be explaining to you as I go along. So stem and leaf plots by yours truly. So I would make the students stop and think. I would make them stop and think, and I would ask them, what are some kind of data organization charts that you guys have made over the year? They could say, oh, bar graphs. Some of them might even say frequency charts, pie charts. There's just different kinds that they could name. I would also ask them, how do we use those charts? So here are two kinds of graphs. I would say here's the first one, which would be a frequency, and the second one, which would be a dot plot, or a plot dot, excuse me. And I would ask them, what are some other ways you can graph numbers? And then they would continue and talk amongst. I would make them talk in turn so that they can talk to their partner, and I don't have to wait. I'll give them some wait time so that they can talk, and I'll point out some good ones that I heard. Okay, so then we'll continue. And I would explain to my students what a stem and leaf plot is. Of course, hopefully some people might know it, some others won't. So I would explain the definition that they're one way. It's one way to display data in an organized way. So you're just showing a nice list of numbers in a very organized way. So to create a stem and leaf plot, we use place value to separate numbers into two parts, a stem and a leaf. And then there's a beautiful picture to represent a stem and leaf plot. So example number 1, I would show them this example. So we'll have a set of numbers, which are the following: 13, 16, 23, 20, 23, 30, and 38. I would point out how the numbers are not in order from least to greatest, which is what we really need before we start this chart. So I would ask them to place the numbers from least to greatest so we can organize them. So I would allow them to help me organize them as we go along, and then I would show them, what we have come up with, which is 13, 16, 20, 23, 23, 30, and 38. We would continue on, and I would say to them that when we have the numbers now from least to greatest, we can continue to actually label the chart and put them in. So I would emphasize the labeling. I would say that on the left side is the stem, and on the right side is the leaves. So we would continue, and I would explain to them how the numbers in the stem column represent the number in the tens place, and that the numbers in the leaves column represent the numbers in the ones place. So if we have the number 13, which is our first number, how would we separate that? I would ask a student to try to clarify. If nobody was generating anything of what I had said, I would give them the example first, obviously, so they could have guidance. So I would say, I take the number 13, and I'll ask them, where's the 10 place? Where's the tens place in the number 13? And they'll go, 1. Oh, perfect, 1. So that would go in the stems column. So if I ask you guys what is the ones place in the 13, they'll say 3. And so I would show them that the 3 goes in the leaves column. So the 1 is in the stem, the 3 is in the leaves. And then they could see that distinction, and I would ask them for the same number for 16. But this time without the help, I would ask them, where would I put the 1? In the stem, because it's the tens columns, and so on. And then this is just more clarification, just in case. We can go through more numbers if they needed it. I would ask at this point if they had any questions, or give me a thumbs up we can continue. But then I would just emphasize how both the leaf and the stem are connected. They're not separate. It's not separate numbers. It's one number, the 1 and the 3, the 1 and the 6, 2, 0, 2, 3, and so on. But then the big question, what happens if you have a single digit number, Miss Salinas? Well, let's say you have a number 4. I would tell them, always remember that there could be an imaginary 0 in front of it. So you would imagine that the 0 would be what? And they would say, tens place, hopefully. If not, you would explain that the 0 is in the tens place because it's in front of the 4, and the 4 would go in the leaf. Okay. Is that what I said? Stem. That's what I said. Right, so then I would say that the 4 goes into the leaf part and the 0 goes into the stem part. Okay? So there would be some clarification if they needed. We could use some more single-digit numbers to give them more example. Then we would have a second example. I would have them look it over and I would let them know if the data set was ordered already for them, and obviously it seems that it has been. I would also ask them when we label that they don't forget that the stem is on the left side and the leaves are on the right side. That's very crucial. I would also explain the tips and tricks that they have listed here. I don't want to read them all because I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, but if you would like to read them and pause the video, go ahead. And then we're on to the activity time. I somehow decided to make a different slides for the activity time just to explain it. I could have put it in the same one, but I decided to make it more complicated for myself, but here we are. So instructions for the stem and leaf plot activity. So once we're done explaining and we're clarifying, and we don't want to leave the kids uncertain, so we would take care of any questions before we get to this point. But of course, if any student needs any guidance during the activity, I think it's totally fine since this is an introduction lesson, and I'm hoping that they would be able to grasp the concept by the activity time. But every kid is different. A lot of words, I know, so let me just go ahead and sum it up. So the students will be paired up in 2, so partners of 2. They're going to need 2 different highlighters so that they could show, just like how I showed on my presentation, the stem and leaf. They will choose which color is the stem and which color is the leaf. It does not matter as long as they're 2 different colors. Then they will be working together, but on their own individual separate sheet of paper. They will be working on their own individual sheet of paper. That way they have, the teacher is able to collect something from each individual at the end of class to assess each person's work. That way there's grade accounted for. Between partners, they will be able to decide who's gonna generate the numbers randomly. So this is on the next slide. I decided to make this more electronic friendly. So I tried to incorporate Google, which allowed me to type in, I would allow for one of the students, they need a laptop, and the partners are gonna share a laptop, and it doesn't matter who does it first. They can, since we're doing 2 charts, 2 stem and leaf plot charts, one of them is gonna have to generate them randomly by going into Google and typing in random number generator. This picture should look exactly the same as what they would search. And in the min box where it says 1, that's perfect. If it's not 1, they need to change it to 1 because that's the least number that they would have digitally randomized for them. And then the max would be 50. I want them only to go to 50. I don't want to overwhelm them with 1 to like 99. So they would generate those numbers randomly once they get their laptop. So we're back to the slide before to continue. So their task is to create 2 stem and leaf plot charts with 10 numbers randomly generated from the Google random generator. And the students will first have to order them from least to greatest. Then they have to set up the T-chart and label properly. And then they will continue by putting the numbers in the correct place, exactly how we had learned it. So once the first chart is done, only one of the students will come up with their information because they are working together, so they should be having the same thing together. So only one student will come up to the teacher and they will say, Miss Alinas, here is me and my partner's first chart, and you will check to see if it's okay so that they can move on. If there is something wrong, then you should stop and reassess that student specifically so that you'll ask for the partner to come over and reassess what is needed to be done in order to fix their problem or whatever unclarity they have. And so great, they will do 2 of those charts on their own separate sheet of paper with their highlighting and everything and labels. Once that's done, if time permits, I'm allowing for 30 minutes for this activity. It shouldn't drag on for too long. We got some pretty smart kids, you know, so they are able to finish, I believe, but if not, they will finish this until it's time to wrap it up. Then there is going to be a bonus round if they have the time that they can create a third and stem and leaf plot on their own with their own set of numbers. It's going to be 20 numbers this time. So this is without partner help. So once both students are done, they will be able to get their own numbers and then separate, or just in general, just do it in their own workspace, but on their own. They don't need each other's help, just to see if they could. So the assessment at the end of the activity. To wrap it up, our lesson will have students complete a stem and plot activity together with the whole class, with the teacher. So first on the board, I would put a blank T-chart that the kids will label on their own. They'll tell me like, I'll ask them where is labeled on the left side. Oh, it's stem. Okay, perfect. And on the right, leaves. Okay, perfect. And then I will ask them to get their sticky notes, and I would ask them to write their birth number month. So if you were born in January, it's going to be written as 01. If you were born in December, it's going to be written as 12. Okay, so I want the number of that month that you were born in. And then they will carefully, either with scissors or tear in half that sticky note so that they have their stem and their leaf. Okay, and then once they're done with that, I will ask the students to, you know, have a little fun game of placing these numbers in order and kind of working collaboratively to get these things done. I understand that some classrooms are more open concept. So if this doesn't work out, you as a teacher can put, like me, I would put already preset numbers that they have that we would do least to greatest, and then we would place them together as a group. But I understand if you want to do another fun assessment activity, I think that would be a good idea for them to kind of relate and have their own number that they relate to. And then that is it. My lesson hopefully it wasn't too complicated for understanding. Please give me feedback if you have any. I do greatly appreciate anything. That's it. Thank you so much.